more whales. Ow. And then we're going to read this awesome book. So get your wiggles out. Come on. We're only going to do a short little wiggle dance. And then we're going to get into reading. In the Land of Giants by Christine Schulze. I probably said her last name wrong, but it's Schulze. And illustrated by Carla Ortega. And we've got the first picture of a little boy in a forest. Ooh, that's kind of scary. And it says, I took a walk in the land of giants. I didn't want to go, but a friend of mine suggested I visit there just once. When I first arrived, I didn't like it at all. The people were big, strange, and very different from me. Some could not speak and made scary pictures with their hands. Others spoke but used strange words that I didn't understand. They seemed to be shouting at me to go away. Others made loud noises and stomped across the ground like monsters. Some ripped plants from the ground, destroying the forest. Others fought and threw mud at each other. Some couldn't see, and when I bumped into them, they yelled and waved giant sticks at me. Others moved around in chairs with large wheels like steamrollers that almost flattened me. I ran hard and fast, shouting for help and trying to escape, but I had forgotten the way out of the forest. Nothing looked familiar. Everything was big and loud and scary. I finally found a quiet place beneath one of the lofty trees. I fell to the ground, pulled my knees up to my chin, and buried my head and cried. I cried harder and harder, wishing that the land of giants was only a dream from which I would soon awaken. No matter how many times I pinched myself, the ground still vibrated beneath me from the giant's footfalls. And in the distance, I could still hear some of them talking in their weird, unfriendly languages. After a few moments, I heard shuffling feet come up and stop before me. I opened my eyes and gasped. A long dark shadow stretched over me. Trembling with fear, I looked up. One of the giants towered over me like a great mountain. I wanted to run away, but was too afraid of what he might do. So instead, I held very still. Maybe if I was quiet enough, he would mistake me for one of the flowers or not even notice me. He crouched low to the ground and stared right at me. I stared back with a shiver. "Who are you?" he asked. My name is Matt," I said. "What are you doing here, Matt?" "Oh no," I thought. "He knows I don't belong here. He's angry with me. Will he shout at me? Will he hit me or maybe even squish me like a tiny bug? Or maybe he will throw me in a pot of human stew and have me for supper." I'm lost," I said, "and I'm scared." The giant furrowed his brows. He seemed to be thinking very hard. He stayed that way for a long time. My heart raced as I prepared for the worst. Then suddenly, he smiled at me. He smiled quickly, turned into an excited laugh. "Matt," he said, "wow, Matt, it's so nice to meet you. Please don't be scared. My name is Corwin, but you can call me Corey. I want to be your friend." I stared up the giant, wide-eyed. You do?" Yes, I do. What about the other giants? They want to be your friends too. Come on, I will show you. Corey bent down and scooped me gently in his hands. Then he carried me back through the land of giants, where suddenly, while everything was still big and loud, it was not so scary after all. Some of the giants used their hand pictures to sing beautiful songs. Others sang with their voices. They seemed to love Christmas songs, just like me, and I joined in. Corey sang too. We sang till our voices grew too tired to sing another word. Then Corey showed me the rest of his friends, and I discovered we had even more in common. They didn't destroy the forest or throw mud at each other. Instead, they harvest all kinds of vegetables from their gardens and picked fruit from the trees. One of them offered me and Corey some strawberries. We thanked her and gladly devoured them. Some of Corey's other friends painted bright, colorful decorations. We asked if we could help, and they answered with an excited yes. I painted a large picture of a superhero looking at Corey's shirt as a guide. I love your superhero shirt, I told him. It's just like mine. Next, Corey and I helped his friends cook vegetable stew, fruit cakes, and all sorts of wonderful treats. While we cooked, others used wood carving tools and their awesome strength to finish building musical instruments just their size. Once they were done, some of the other giants began playing the new flutes, fiddles, and drums. Others sang, and everyone else began dancing around them. "It's a party, Matt!" Corey cried. "Would you like to go?" "I'd love to," I said. Corey's friends fast became mine. We danced and sang and ate good food until it was so late that the stars glowed like millions of nightlights above, until I couldn't stop yawning and my eyes would hardly stay open. Then Corey scooped me up in his gentle hands again and said, "I think it's bedtime, Matt. I will take you home." I nodded and yawned again and let him carry me. Before I knew it, Corey was reaching his giant hands through the open window of my bedroom, and setting me carefully on my bed, I drew up my blanket up around my shoulders and gazed up at him with a smile. "Neat poster," Corey said. "It has superheroes on it, just like our shirts." "Yes, it does," I said with a sleepy yawn and a smile. "Oh, thanks for inviting me to the party, but I think I'd better go to sleep." "Okay, Matt," Corey said with a wave. He added, "Please come back and visit us sometime." "Oh, I will," I said, waving back. "I definitely will. Good night." "Good night." Corey turned away from my window, and I snuggled deep beneath my covers. As Corey walked away, I could hear his giant footsteps and feel my whole house shake a little. I smiled, for the shaking and the noise no longer frightened me. They no longer made me think of big scary monsters. They made me think of my new friends and how silly I had been to be scared before. I closed my eyes and I drifted to sleep. I dreamed of the next time I would be able to visit the land of giants. I was so glad now that my friend had told me to go. It was a wonderful place that everyone should see. Next time, I think I'll invite a new friend to come with me. Author's note on diversity and autism awareness. So this is from the author who wrote this book. "Hi, and thanks so much for joining Matt, Corey, and the rest of the giants on their adventure. Ever since I was a young writer, I have been keenly aware of the need for more diversity in fantasy literature, young adult, children's, or otherwise, and have strived to implement this in my own books. I started out creating various fantasy races of color, so that peoples of color could be represented more as main characters. However, more recently, an even greater need had been brought to light. and with it an even greater passion. A little over a year ago, I began working for an organization that offers day programs and residential services to adults with disabilities. At first, I was uncertain about the job because I had never worked with people with disabilities, but I had taught daycare and preschool for a number of years and hoped that my background in education and teaching would aid me. After being on the job for a week, I was sent to work at a site we affectionately called the farm. I quickly fell in love and have been in love ever since. The farm is a place brimming with constant life and activity. There's never a dull moment, and every day we get to teach the clients and often ourselves many things like culinary, gardening, art, math, social skills, and life skills. Community outings are always a treat. Someone even donated a piano this past year. Since then, gathering together to sing songs has become one of everyone's favorite pastimes. People with disabilities are amazing people with talents, goals, and dreams just like everyone else. So, one of my newest personal goals is to include more main characters with disabilities in my books. People in this group are rarely represented in fantasy fiction, and I want to do my part to show that they can be heroes too.